Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, having spent time with the Suns, Bucks, and Knicks. And I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner, who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. And also joining us is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael World B. Freer, who is a senior writer at Stat Factor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 123, the Louisville episode, as Lou Williams wore number 23 while becoming a 3-time Sixth Man of the Year award winner. I bet you guys didn't see that one coming, did you, World B?
No, I would have penciled in someone else for 3 there.
wanted to throw a quick curveball right out of the gates here on 48 Minutes here tonight. But before we get tonight started with our slate, let's go ahead and discuss BetOnline, as BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to be on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on a 200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of over $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. And let's go ahead and start with the big news out of Philadelphia, as Joel Embiid signed an extension, 3 years, $192.9 million on the books for the Sixers. He will be staying put in Philadelphia. And Bruce, I'll start with you. What is your initial reaction to this offseason news?
So they gave him 192.9. Why didn't they just round it up to 193?
Exactly. Yeah.
And anyway, so the American Olympic hero, I'm totally on board. Give the man his money. He's earned it. He plays hurt. He plays with passion. He's the best free throw shooting big ever. Their money buys harmony with PG, with Maxey, and with Coach Nick Nurse. So they're walking into this season with everybody kind of feeling good about each other and about the big three. Philly, if healthy, is loaded. Joel will dominate the other Atlantic Division bigs at the start of the season due to Boston and New York having some health issues. So just to let anybody that is interested know, Philly's first game against the Knicks is in mid-November. Then they don't play again until January 15th. And then they don't play the Celtics till Christmas, and then not again until February. So for those second games, it could very well be that the Knicks and the Celtics bigs will be back healthy.
World B, what's your thoughts out of Philadelphia?
Well, it's funny. He had such an excellent career when he's been on the court and over the years. Last year might have been, he only played 39 games, so he played less than half the season. But he had his numbers say he had the best season of his career, with career high in scoring, career high in assists, a career high in 3-point percentage. And he's not taking as many threes as he used to. He's getting more in the paint than he used to, which is great. I don't care how good a shooter you are. Somebody that big in this day and age should really dominate inside, obviously. He's increased his scoring average every year since 2019, 2020. It's unbelievable for a guy who's a 2-time scoring champ to keep doing that. And last season was his best one. So, no, the Sixers, we've talked at length since the offseason about the Celtics, how great they were. They're the champs. Then we talk about the Knicks with their lineup and how they're the biggest competitor, competition to the Celtics. And the Sixers just refuse to say, all right, we're just going to give it up. They're really in it they think they can win a championship, and they have every right to feel that way with the lineup they're going out there with. But just like the Knicks, just like the Celtics, and we're going to discuss here, health is the biggest concern, and Joel Embiid is arguably the biggest health factor worth following this season in the NBA.
Yeah, I've got to tip my cap to Philadelphia, going all in, pushing to move forward in this process, I will say, in Philadelphia, and giving the man his money. He's certainly earned it, as you alluded to, World B, with just the year-by-year statistics there. Obviously, getting Paul George was huge, and they're really pushing forward, making it interesting on both the Knicks and Celtics for years to come.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and discuss. Oh, sorry, Wilby, you have something else?
Real quick, I just want to bring up, think about where we were a season ago when they still had James Harden, and we were wondering how disastrous this franchise was for wasting away MD's prime years. And now we're 1 year later. Look how much it's turned around just by trading Harden, getting pieces back, signing Paul George. I mean, a year, really, a lot of stuff can change in a year. This franchise has gone from potentially being a disaster to being a possibly championship.
Yeah, lots more hope and optimism for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, there's a lot of hope and optimism also in New York with their big summer, but they got some bone-crushing news here just here recently with Mitchell Robinson, as he is set to miss the start of the season after an off-season ankle injury. As you might remember, he had some ankle issues during the playoffs last season as well, but this is a huge blow to the Knicks. They are now targeting a return for the big man around December or January. So, I'll start with you. What was your initial reaction hearing this news, and how are the Knicks going to, move forward without Big Mitch?
It was a disappointment, but it wasn't the biggest shock given his injury history. That's been the staple of his career, really.
That's true, yeah.
Being able to stay healthy. And we should note here that the reason he has this injury is because he came back from the playoffs and he got taken down on a dirty play by Embiid. Dirty, in my opinion. That basically ruined him for the playoffs. He hurt himself. He ended up leaving the game after Embiid tackled him in a walking boot, and Embiid didn't get suspended for it or any of that stuff. But so I mean, that's how his ankle has not been unable to recover from. It's a definite blow. We talked about the biggest problem area potentially for the Knicks is in the middle, and here's where the problem is: offensive rebounding. Isaiah Hartenstein, who left to go to OKC, was great at offensive rebounding. Mitchell Robinson, that's his calling card. Great offensive rebounder. And the Knicks, for all this stuff I talk about, when you talk about how great they were an average shooting team last season. Middle of the road in effective field goal percentage, 16th or 15th, I believe. And they were the number one offensive rebounding team. They made up for a lot of those problems with their rebounding. Now they don't have somebody there, and it's a problem. It's really a question mark going into this season.
Bruce, what's your thoughts on the front court with the New York Knicks without Mitchell Robinson?
If Rick Pitino were coaching the Knicks again, he'd say something like, Isaiah Hartenstein ain't walking through that door. with Mitchell Robinson on the shelf for several more months, Tibbs has a chance to get creative because he has very little up front ready to step in. Julius Randle can give it a go at the 5 in small lineups, and it could work with some clever Tibbs schemes, and we know he's capable of that. It'll be interesting to see his role and his health once the preseason games begin.
Good point there. And for Julius Randle, this is a great opportunity, right? I mean, this is a guy that had his jersey removed from the main team store inside Madison Square Garden, and he tweeted about it, like, where's my jersey? Where's the love? He's going to get a lot of love from New York fans if he can fill in at the 5 and do a heck of a job down there for New York and help keep them competitive while Mitchell Robinson's out. My other concern with Robinson moving forward is this is a younger guy. Now, I get his main role is to block shots, run the floor, and grab rebounds. But as far as defensive coverages are concerned and really gelling with this team, he's been set back now, not just one season, but 2 seasons, trying to get on the same page with a lot of these Villanova guys, for instance, that surround this rotation. So that's my deepest fear is even when he returns, how many games is it going to take him to kind of get back into the groove and get on the same page coverage-wise, defensive scheme-wise, communication-wise? There's a lot that goes into this. And for a younger guy still trying to, make his way in the NBA, that could be tough to overcome. Any concerns there will be?
Absolutely are concerns about it. The other thing is they say December, January. This guy's had recurring issues with his ankle. I'd be surprised at this point. There might be being generous with that time frame. You have ankle problems, it reoccurs, you're not healthy, you had the whole off season to try and get healthy and you're still not healthy. I'd be surprised if he ends up getting back before the All-Star break. It's just how bad can this be if you've had the entire offseason to get yourself ready? We're getting ready for training camp, and you still are not only are you not ready for training camp, you're going to be out for months at a time. That's how bad this is. I'd be shocked if he makes it to past the All-Star break.
Now, Bruce, with Kristaps Porzingis out for several months in Boston, and now Mitchell Robinson out for the Knicks for a couple of months, Philly looks to have a solid chance to bust out of the Atlantic Division, don't they?
You know, if Rick Pitino were coaching the Celtics again, he'd say something like, Kristaps Porzingis ain't walking through that door, at least not for a while. Much like the Knicks, the Boston starting center and their best shot blocker will miss several months at the start of the season. Embiid has all 8 of the games against those two guys circled this season. He'll play the first 2 with them not in the lineup, but they'll be back, presumably, for the next go-round. I mean, look, Boston, the reason Boston won the championship last year, one of the reasons was because they had 6 starters, including 2 starting centers. Now, sure, Al Horford is not the guy that KP is at this point, but look, I mean, they have a pretty well-rounded team. You know, your pal Luke Cornett played some meaningful minutes. I think they'll be able to hang in there without him, but obviously there's no way in the world he should be rushed back before he's truly ready to go.
World B, are you looking at the 76ers as a favorite out east, at least for the first quarter of the year?
Oh, they have a shot. I mean, the door is open for them if they can stay healthy themselves. That's another, like we just discussed. That's Paul George's history, Embiid, obviously. If they can stay healthy, they have an excellent shot. It won't be easy though. This team, 18 out of their first 31 games are on the road, and they have not only 1 but 2 West Coast trips in that time frame, which is a little unusual for that short a time frame to be going out west. But they have them, so it won't be easy at the start. But there is absolutely an opportunity for them to not only not take control necessarily, because Boston, I think, is too talented to lose control, but they have a chance to really get to the top of the East and have everybody else looking up at them. It wouldn't bother Boston that much. I don't know how the reaction would be in New York. The opportunity is absolutely there for Philly.
I'm glad you mentioned that they have the 2 West Coast trips. That definitely is unusual this early in the season for a team out east to have to head west so quickly. The one thing I'll say as a former member of the traveling party for various NBA teams is the fact that I like it from the standpoint of gelling as a team, because when you're at home, you're spending time with friends and family, going to and from home to the arena and back. On the road, you're stuck with one another. You're grabbing dinners. You've got extra workouts. I think that can pay huge dividends for Philadelphia trying to gel, especially with the new coaching staff with Nick Nurse in town. He's going to have a really good chance to bond with his core players, and it's going to be a battle test. But if they can get through this West Coast trip and really gel as a team on and off the court, they're going to be really scary for the rest of the year. And with that, let's go ahead and get into our Western Conference over-under team win predictions. It's finally here. It's finally time. Bruce, we wanted to wait for you for this to be sure we had all 3 of us on board to make our predictions. And we're going to start off with the Pacific Division. So first up, we got the Phoenix Suns. They were 49-33 last year, and their over-under is set at 47.5 wins. So Bruce, I'll let you have the first honors here. You got over or under on Phoenix?
I've got over. I've got Phoenix going 50-32. Health is the key, but if KD, Bradley Beal, and Book can stay on the court together, they have a lot of offensive weapons. Coach Bud will help the defense, and Tyus Jones is the point guard they've lacked. This group has a chance to silence a lot of critics. Book is in his prime, and KD has one of his last good chances to win a title. So I expect Phoenix to have a really solid year, 50-32.
All right. World B?
I had the over as well. When those 3, KD, Booker, and Beal played together, they only played half a season, but when they did, they were 26-15. That's pretty darn good. One thing to keep in mind, it's really unusual. This team was the worst fourth quarter team in the league last year by a mile. It wasn't even close. They got outscored by over 11 points per 100 possessions in the fourth quarter last season. Nobody else was even reached 6 points per 100 possession. And we're talking some bad teams out there last year, but the Suns, as good as they were the worst. So if they can turn that around, yeah, they should go over that total.
I would agree with you both. I'm taking the over here. I just love the offseason acquisition of Tyus Jones. I think Mike Budenholzer is a coaching upgrade that's going to hold these guys accountable defensively, kind of going back to those fourth quarter numbers you just shared there, World B. I think he's going to help improve those quite a bit. And, with those wings, Devin Booker, Brad Beal, and Kevin Durant, I mean, I think the sky is the limit in Phoenix. And I think Vegas is selling them short, thinking they're not going to win as many games as last year. So we'll go over there. Now, next up, we've got the Beam team, the Sacramento Kings. Last year, they went 46-36, and their over-under this year is set just under the Suns at 46.5 wins. Bruce?
Last year, they couldn't make the leap from good to great, but this year they could. DeMar DeRozan is a stone-cold closer who gets to the line and will complement De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis well. Malik Monk returns, and while Harrison Barnes is gone, Keegan Murray will continue his growth. I'm going over on the Kings. I've got them going 48-34, over under 46.5. So I look for Sac to exceed expectations.
World B?
Yeah, please don't tell Coach Brown, the friend of this show right here, but I have them. I'm taking the under on this one.
Wow.
DeMar DeRozan is a nice name and pickup. I worry about the fit with this team. This is a team that was right there with Golden State in terms of ball movement. They moved the ball around, had more passes per game than just about any team in the league. And DeMar DeRozan is an ISO guy. He's been a big-time ISO. Nothing wrong with that. That's where he's at his best. I worry about the fit there. And the other note about this team, the top 7 players last season in terms of minutes for the Kings all had their what we call true shooting percentage. That's when you combine their field goal and free throw percentage to create a true shooting percentage. All 7 of them saw their percentage go down last season from the previous season. They got to improve on that. They weren't as clutch as they were last season. If they can turn that around, yeah, they can go over. But for me, the fit, I got to see it first, so I'm taking the under.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Bruce here and take the over here. I think just one more win this year to hit the over with DeMar DeRozan on board is going to be huge. Having another closer next to fourth quarter Fox. They re-signed Malik Monk. Love that. And Sabonis is one of the best bigs in the business at collecting double-doubles and even dishing the ball out. So I think DeMar has reached that stage in his career where he's willing to maybe give up some ISO opportunities in order to win. I think he's in a role now where he's able to sacrifice for the good of the team. And I think we're going to see that next season with Sacramento because, boy, we know one thing, DeMar DeRozan does not want another Chicago Bulls situation in Sacktown. So I think we might see a veteran leader in DeMar and maybe not see the same game at the same level as far as the amount of volume this next year with the Kings. Now, next up, we've got the Golden State Warriors. They actually ended up with the same record as the Kings last year at 46-36. Their over-under this year is set at 44.5 wins. Bruce?
I'm saying they're not even coming close to 44.5 wins. I got them going 39-43. They lost Klay Thompson, added 3 role players to an aging big 2 in Steph and Draymond. They didn't take a step back exactly, but this conference is so brutally tough. They're not getting to 44.5, so I'm taking the under.
All right, World B, I have a prediction. I think you're going to take the over here, but set me straight.
I could take the under and just mess you really up. I'm taking the over. One more stand for this team is
okay.
As Bruce mentioned, this team won 46 games in a brutally tough Western Conference. I think it's tougher last year than it's going to be this season, and so I think they're going to make one more run at it. I kind of take the other view than Bruce on the whole turnover on the roster. I think D'Anthony Melton, Buddy Hield, and Kyle Anderson could actually work out well with this group. I think Klay Thompson, they're going to have to make tougher shots than what they were used to. Klay was much better at making the tough shots than, say, these guys are. But I think Steph can set him up. I think Kuminga and our man Brandon Podziemski have to get better, have to keep developing. And if they can, I think they can go over there. One last stand for them. I'll take them one more time.
All right. Well, I'm going to get sided with Bruce on this one. I'm going with the under. However, I think it's going to be closer than we think. I think they're going to fall just shy of hitting 45 wins on the year. I see them in the low 40s. But I do like the acquisitions that they made. I think they've had a lot of addition by subtraction with Klay Thompson, with the distractions that came with, him throughout the season. Should he be playing in late games? Should he not be playing in late games? I like Buddy Hield. I like some of the other guys they picked up there. So taking the under by just a hair. They're going to make us sweat it out here. Now, next up, we're going to move to the City of Angels, and we're going to start with the Los Angeles Lakers. Last year, the Lakers were 47-35. Their over-under this year is 43.5. Bruce?
They're going to get very, very close, but I'm taking the under. I got them going 43-39, so half game from their number. They rely heavily on their big two, but in spite of some talented pieces on the roster, this looks like a play-in team to me, especially if Anthony Davis gets hurt. The conference is way too tough, and the Lakers get every team's best shot every night. It's almost like they're the champions. Bronny and the GOAT will be a nice sideshow when they take the court together, but 43 wins, and I got them finishing 9th in the conference.
Yeah. I don't know how much that sideshow needs to last, though. I feel like after maybe a week of it, we might all get bored. World B?
Well, it's funny. I have down here the over and underline best bet. I think this is my best bet of this whole discussion to go over. I think these guys, the disrespect is in Vegas for this team never. I know it's a sideshow. We all get that. You go out and get J.J. Redick as head coach. That's a sideshow. They draft Bronny. That's a sideshow. At the end of the day, this is a team that still gets to the rim. They outscored opponents in the restricted area by over 6 a game. They still get to the line. They outscored opponents by almost 5 points a game at the free throw line. Those are big. They're still a really good shooting team. All the BS aside, they're a good shooting team. And the only issue I have with them is does the Olympic experience that they went to, it was a draining one for these guys. We all watched it. They had to really sweat out the last 2 games. And the emotion does that drain 2 guys who, LeBron is going to be pushing 40 and AD with his injuries and body hit might as well be 40. So will they be drained as the season goes on? I think it's a legitimate question for them. If they can survive it, they always seem to. LeBron we're waiting for the moment where LeBron finally slows down. The body finally, time catches up with him. And it doesn't happen yet. So I'll take it one more time. My best bet over is the Lakers at 43.5.
All right. You like all the Pacific Division oldies but goodies there with the Warriors and the Lakers.
Well, I'm not playing myself except for the goodie part.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go under here. I got to see it to believe it. And that's on 2 fronts. Number one, Anthony Davis, going back to your question, will be about the Olympic experience. I think, can he stay healthy 2 full seasons in a row? I'm not going to bet with that. So I'm going to take against that. LeBron James, Father Time's undefeated. I don't care if you're King James, arguably the greatest player of all time. It's going to catch up to him at some point. It might even be as soon as this year. And then J.J. Redick, that's another factor in this too. We've never seen him coach before. He has no coaching experience. He's got to deal with the L.A. media. We know J.J. is very blunt about some of his own responses to the media. So there could be a lot more sideshows in L.A. other than just Bronny and LeBron. So I'm going to take the under here because it could be a roller coaster ride for the Lakers. Now, speaking of roller coaster rides, we've got a new amusement park built in LA, and that's with the Clippers' new home arena. Last year, they went 51-31. This year, their over-under is set at 40.5 wins. So, Bruce, that's quite a tumble there as far as the over-under, but you still going under?
I'm definitely going under. I realize I'm saying that this team is headed for the dumpster, but there are so many better teams ahead of them despite having 2 aging Hall of Fame guys. The new Intuit Dome will be a boost for the organization's morale. Ty Lue will get the best out of what he's got there, but this will be a huge challenge. Believe it or not, I've got these guys going 36-46, 13th in the Western Conference, and that means I'm taking the under.
All right. Will be.
I'm taking the under as well. I think it might be a little bit closer to the total, but I still think it's an under. Um, Losing Paul George, Kawhi's hurt again. I mean, this is just where are they going to get the points at the end of the day? Where are they going to get the scoring? I think if they get back, they were a really average defensive team last season, which stopped the presses when James Harden's on your roster, but they were an average team defensively. If they can get back to being a really good defensive team, that would require Kawhi being healthy, I suppose. But if they can do that, they have a chance to be better than we think. But at the end of the day, they were the number 4 team in offensive efficiency last season, and they lose Paul George, their best offensive player, and Kawhi Leonard, who knows when he'll be back. So I'm taking the under.
Now, for me, if Rick Pitino was the head coach of the LA Clippers, he'd say Paul George is not walking through that door. So with that said, there is some shots to be had here with Paul George no longer in that offensive lineup. So I could see with the offseason acquisitions this team made, they're going to struggle with filling out roles. I mean, Norman Powell's going to want more shots. Kevin Porter Jr. is now on board. He likes to chuck it up there. We all know James Harden has a history of chucking it up there. We'll see if he gets back to his old ways, like he was in H-Town with the Clippers this year without the star power, with Kawhi possibly out due to injury, and then, of course, Paul George gone. So I don't like this team at all. I've got to take the under. I don't see them making the playoffs this next year. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and come back with the Northwest Division. And we're back here on 48 Minutes, and we're going to get into the Northwest Division team over-unders, and this is the division that holds the top 3 teams projected to win the most games out of the West, according to the sports books. And we're going to start off with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who had the highest win total. Theirs is set at 56.5 wins, and last year they won 57 games. They went 57-25. So, Bruce, do you see the Oklahoma City Thunder basically just matching last year's total?
This is going to sound kind of weird to people, but I think they're the top team in the conference. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is basically the best all-around guard in the league at 26 years old. Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams are budding stars. Newly acquired Isaiah Hartenstein shores up their rebounding. Alex Caruso is a Tasmanian devil on defense. And Lou Dort is an ideal glue guy. If everyone is healthy, they're the best in the West. However, I'm taking the under. I'm saying they're going to go 55-27, which is still good enough to have the best record in the West, but I'm taking the under on their win total.
All right. Didn't see that one coming. Will be.
Well, then you didn't see this one coming. I'm agreeing with Bruce. So I'm going to take the under. And this isn't a knock on them at all. It's hard to win that many games, period.
Yeah.
It's going to be even harder in this conference to pull off back-to-back wins, basically back-to-back 57-win season. Now, they have the personnel to do it, and they could run it. They've been progressing to this point, and they could get to 60 wins. And if they do in the Western Conference, holy cow. I think they'll fall just a tad shy of that, maybe around where Bruce was talking about 55, maybe 56 or 54 wins, which is still a really big accomplishment for this team. And Caruso was a huge pickup. Hartenstein is a nice pickup for them. My only concern, you mentioned with one of the teams before, I want to wait and see how they rebound with the best of them in this conference, because that is their biggest bugaboo. And if they can, turn that around and become a good offensive rebounding team, they have all the pieces everywhere else to be the dominant team in the conference. I think they'll be the 1 seed in the West. I just don't know if 57 wins will do it. So I'm taking the under.
All right. And I'm going to take the over here. I think that they'll certainly match last year's total of 57-25, solely based on the fact that they won that many games last year without a real center. And the center they did have was in his rookie year. He was a second-year guy in Chet Holmgren, but it was his rookie year, his first time playing out on an NBA floor. He's now got a year of experience under his belt. Hartenstein, I think, is going to play huge dividends. And we talked about Hartenstein as an addition. How about the subtraction of Josh Giddey? I think getting that guy out of town, even with some of the PR that the team had to go through last year with his off-the-court issue, I think this team's going to take another step forward. Even guys like Kason Wallace, We saw him kind of arrive on the scene midway through last year. He's had another summer to work. So I think there could be some more surprises in store for some of those rotation pieces within their already assembled group of draft picks that could be taking a leap forward that we least expect. So I've got the over there with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they went 56-26 last year. Their over under this year is set at 52.5 wins. Bruce?
I'm going with the over here. I've got Minnesota going 54-28. They're a premier defensive team with an alpha scorer in Anthony Edwards. Rudy Gobert, Cat, and Naz Reid are all outstanding bigs. Mike Conley is solid at the point, and there are some great role players like Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They're going to be right there with OKC battling for number one. And, I've got them finishing up within a game of each other. So Minnesota at 54 wins, that's the over for me.
Will be.
Not only is this the over for me, this is my team to reach the NBA Finals out of the West, Minnesota. I think they're ready to be that team. As Bruce mentioned, they weren't just the best defensive team in the league last season. They were the best defensive team by a mile. They outscored their number two team, which was the Celtics. They had an advantage of 2.2 points per 100 possessions better than the Celtics. The previous 3 seasons, the gap between 1 and 2 combined was 1.3 points per 100 possessions. They did it by over 2. They absolutely dominated defensively. I think they're going to continue to be that good of a defensive team. And I think Anthony Edwards, if he can improve his shooting, which he's been able to improve every year, he is going to be a legit top 2 or 3 MVP candidate this season. And that's going to propel them. That's his next stepping stone to being an all-time great or a super-duper star, whatever, is getting to the finals. We saw it with Luka last season, how it elevated his reputation in the league. I think Anthony Edwards is about to do the same.
Yeah, I've got the over here with the Wolves as well. Not only does Anthony Edwards have just another year of Team USA experience under his belt, that paid huge dividends for him last year, participating in the summer stuff with the Team USA team. He's now got a gold medal to go along with it, having played with all the stars that he looked up to as a kid growing up. I think he's ready to take the next leap into superstardom, really solidify himself in there. And not to mention, this is a team that went out and drafted Rob Dillingham. They traded up to get a point guard who can provide a little scoring punch and energy off the bench and, maybe even take Mike Conley off his feet for some extended time during some games, which will be huge for this team because the one question mark I have is, can they keep Mike Conley healthy? And might sound crazy to some, but if you watch their games without Mike Conley out there on the floor, there's no organization offensively. So he is a key piece to this team, but they went out and got some depth that should help them. And Terrence Shannon Jr. might be a dark horse for Rookie of the Year. I mean, he had an outstanding summer league. Looks like one of the more NBA-ready rookies, and he's going to be fighting for some time out on the floor this year. So I think they'll be competitive on the court in games and also in practice, looking for some minutes out on the floor. They got some hungry young guys. Next up, we've got the Denver Nuggets. Last year, they went 57-25. Their over-under this year is set at 51.5 wins. Bruce?
Well, Joker and Jamal will keep them at 51 wins, so I'm going with the under slightly. I got them at 51-31. Losing KCP this summer and last summer losing Bruce Brown, it's robbed them of enough depth that I don't think they can really finish higher than third in the West behind OKC and Denver. But 51-31 is still, a damn good record out West, but I have to say it's the under.
All right, will be.
Yeah, I'm taking the under here too. It's again, as Bruce mentioned, it's not a knock on this team when we take unders sometimes. They're just, as Bruce mentioned, losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a bigger deal than people realize, and it goes along with Bruce Brown leaving. It does hurt your depth. Their starting unit last season played more minutes than anybody else, and it's been that way for the last 2 years during these championship or these really excellent runs. And I think losing a piece of that is going to, Christian Brown is going to have to become that player, and it's a wait and see thing with him. I got to see him do it. It's a lot different being a role player and then stepping into that starting lineup on a major contender like this team. Now, if he can do it, great. They could be right back to 55, 57 wins. I just don't see it happen. I can see him getting to 50 wins. I'm just going to take the under this time.
Yeah, I'm with you both. I'm taking the under here. Too many question marks with the health of their stars, and also question marks with the surrounding rotational pieces. That, like Christian Brown's one of them. They have Julian Strother, Peyton Watson. They've all shown flashes, but can they put it together for a full season to help this team propel to 52 wins? I don't buy it, so I've got the under on them. Next up, we've got the Utah Jazz. They were 31-51 last year. Their over-under this year is set at 29.5 wins. So, Bruce, do you see them reaching the 30-win mark?
Hell no. I've got them going 22-60, which would put them in a pretty much great position to possibly draft a certain individual that we've spoken about before. They're bottom feeders now, but they're not going to be down for long. Danny Ainge is in the midst of a tear down there. And if he somehow gets Cooper Flagg, it will be another stroke of genius in the career of a Hall of Fame executive. But this year is going to be ugly. They will not get close to 29.5.
All right, will be.
Yeah, I agree with Bruce. I took the under. I think they're going to be one of those teams that we talked about in the Eastern Conference. There's a couple teams we're going to see go right into the pooper to try and be the number one flag bearer, as we decided to coin this, or this pursuit. It was a really unusual. We heard Lauri Markkanen's name in trade talks throughout the offseason. What's going to happen? Is he going to make it to the season? Is he going to be traded during the season? And then the Jazz went out and signed him, making him ineligible to be traded. So their plan, I think, is, as Bruce mentioned, to really win as few games as they can and build around Markkanen with a guy like Cooper Flagg or anybody else. This is going to be a deep draft. We talk about Cooper Flagg, but this is supposed to be a much deeper draft than the one we just had. They have a couple of young guys in Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks. They have to develop. If they want to be competitive, they have to develop. Keontae George was just a terrible shooter last season, and Hendricks only played, he didn't play that many minutes. If they can do that, they can get over to the 30-win mark. I don't see them developing that much, so I have the under.
Yeah, I've got the under too, because I think when we talk about the flag bearer for this next season, it'd be such a Danny Ainge move. And I'm not saying, I think it's a wise one. I don't think it's a bad thing by any means. Taylor Hendricks, Cody Williams, who they just drafted as a top pick in this past year's draft, and Keontae George, they should be getting all the run in the world this next year. Continue to allow their young head coach to develop his leadership roles with these young guys, get on the same page, and secure a nice draft pick for next year. So I've got the under there. Next up, we've got the Portland Trailblazers. Last year, they went 21-61, and their over-under this year is set at 22.5 wins. So, Bruce, I know Chauncey Billups is your boy. Do you think he can squeeze out a couple more wins here, or do you got the under?
No, I'm actually going to take the over. I've got Portland going 26-56. They took a big swing in the offseason getting Denny Avdija from Washington, and they drafted Donovan Clingan, a big with 2 national championships. Your guy, Scoot Henderson, should be ready to kind of show what he has a little bit more this year. And if he plays well, these guys could surprise. But honestly, they're closer to a flag than they are to a banner.
Nice. Love that. Will be.
I'm taking the over with this team too. And health is the biggest question mark for me with this team. Can they stay healthy? If they can, I think they can get to the over total. Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, 11 games together last season. That's all you got out of them. How do you know what kind of team this can be? You get them for a whole season, hopefully, if you're a fan of Portland, and they absolutely need some help in the middle, helping out in the paint. They gave up the highest field goal percentage in the paint last season. Opponents shot like 61%, something like that. You can't win that way. There's no way you can do it. So hopefully they got some guys in there. Robert Williams coming back, which should help that if he can stay healthy. If they can get these guys healthy, I think they can surpass. There's enough talent there to surpass 22.5 wins, 23 wins or whatever. But they absolutely have to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm going with you guys. I got the over here. Obviously, I'm kind of our local Portland Trailblazers fan with the good Henderson watches that I do, but this group's competitive. They really have some great camaraderie amongst themselves and always play with high energy, something that Coach Billups, expects from these young guys. They're hungry. They want to learn, and they've shown me this past year, even when Scoot Henderson made me want to turn the TV off. There's plenty of other guys like Tumari Kamara, Chris Murray, defensively speaking, and Delano Banton came over from the Toronto Raptors and put together a string of a hot stretch there. So I see this team getting better with Donovan Clingan and some of the other pieces they've got, like Denny Avdia.
By the way, what is Jeremy Grant still doing on this team? I mean, come on. They're going young, and they got Jeremy Grant out there. I mean, God bless him. He can put it in the basket, but it goes against everything that they're trying to do, it seems like.
Yeah, well, you got to find someone to take. Go ahead.
Yeah, must not be a robust market for his services, I would think.
His contract is
the contract.
Ridiculous, but you would think he'd be a candidate with his offensive capabilities there. He can put it in the basket.
Yeah, no, he's a good player, veteran player that can certainly be a go-to guy down the stretch for this team in closing minutes. But I feel like the only thing is that Portland wants young guys, and a lot of the teams that want to acquire Jeremy Grant, say the Lakers, don't have many young pieces they'd be willing to, or even, they just don't have any available that would make it an attractive trade for Portland. So we'll have to keep an eye on Jeremy Grant as the season goes along to see if he can be traded to a contending team. Now we're going to take one last break here and then come back with you with the Southwest Division. And we're back here on 48 minutes, and let's get to our Southwest Division team over-unders. And this division features a lot of projected improvement. And we're going to start with the Dallas Mavericks. Last year, they went 50-32. Their over-under this year is set at 49.5 wins. So they just have to match last year's total. Do you think they can do that with Klay Thompson on board, Bruce?
No. I think adding Klay was a bold move. But if he's out there at the 3 playing with Luka and Kyrie, I'm wondering, is there going to be enough defense? I thought they totally overachieved last season, but they crashed back down to earth in the finals. I need to be convinced that they're more than a 47-win team. So I got them at 47 wins and the under.
All right. You going to give me a hard no like that, World B? What do you got? Over, under?
No, I'm going to take the over. I think they can get back to 50 wins. Think about this. After they went and picked up Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington last season, and after they did that, they had a record, the second best record in the league, if you discount the last 2 games when they basically had nothing to play for and everybody sat. They were 21-7 during that period after they got those guys, and they were top 6 in the league offensively and defensively. I think that wasn't a fluke thing. I think those guys can develop. Derek Lively's got to develop. Gafford's got to work for a whole season. I think Klay Thompson, as much as I point out that he's on this show that he's just a spot up shooter anymore, these days, I think that can provide value for a guy like Luka when he gets the heavy treatment defensively, to find somebody like Klay in the corner on the wing. So I think he can benefit, and Dallas can benefit from this team. I think they can be another 50-win team.
All right. I've got the under here as well, Bruce. I'm going to point out the defensive concerns that I have with this group, especially losing Derek Jones Jr. to the Los Angeles Clippers this offseason. One of the guys that stood out all playoff long for me was Derek Jones and his defense. He was the guy that was assigned to the head scorer of the other team. And without him on the court and replacing him with a guy like Klay Thompson that doesn't have much defense left in him at this point, I just don't see how they're going to play enough defense to match last year's total with the improvements we've seen with other teams out west this year. And I like Lively. I like their big acquisition in Gafford, but they're going to fall just short of that 50-win mark this year. Now, for the most impressive improvement as far as the line is concerned, the Memphis Grizzlies last year were 27-55. Their over-under this year stood at 47.5 wins. So, Bruce, do you see them being 21 wins better this year?
No, but I see them being a solid playoff team. I've got
Yep.
them at 46 wins, which is just shy of the 47 and a half.
Yep.
Hopefully, we'll soon be reminded just how talented John Morant is. It's sort of like we've forgotten about the guy, right? Zach Edey should get enough playing time that he'll challenge for Rookie of the Year. The rest of the team beyond Triple J is kind of ordinary, but I hope to see Marcus Smart healthy and doing his thing for those guys. You know, former Celtic Tony Allen, who was sent to Memphis in 2010 and played 7 seasons for the Grit and Grind crew, is going to have his jersey number retired this season. And I've always felt that Marcus Smart has given me the Tony Allen vibes. He's gritty. He's a grinder. I think that they're looking at 46 and 36, and I'm pretty certain that that's a pretty big improvement.
Yeah. World B?
I had the under as well. But if they have all the pieces, if they have them all together, they could certainly contend. But even when everybody's healthy, even when everybody's together, I'm not convinced that this is a team that you have the right mix. They have a lot of great players, a lot of great defensive players. I just don't know if it was a great mix. You know, when Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, and Jaren Jackson were on the court together, it wasn't that much, because of injuries and suspensions, whatever. But when they were still outscored by almost 3 points per 100 possessions. So I don't know yet what this team is really capable of when they're all together. Their most used lineup, 5-player lineup last year, the lineup that spent the most time on the court, only played 68 minutes together. That's an unbelievably low number. That's the lowest in the last 20 years for anybody with their most used lineup. I mean, the Nuggets their lineup was like 900 minutes last season, to put it in perspective. So if they get everybody healthy, even if they are, I don't know. I don't know about the mix yet. They should surpass that everybody's healthy, but I don't see it just yet. I'm with Bruce. I think Ja's going to come back and remind everybody what he's like. And I told you last episode, I think Desmond Bane is could make the All-Star team this year.
Yeah. And speaking of those minutes of time on the floor together, I think we've had podcasts longer than that, just to put in perspective how low that is. I've got the under as well, and I'm going to start off by just saying Gigi Jackson's out to start the season, so that's point A for me. But I think this is a group that's certainly going to improve dramatically. I think they fall short of the 47.5 wins, but they are going to be a solid 4 or 5 seed, and they're going to have some upsets in the playoffs come the first and second rounds. I could see them really surprising teams, catching fire at the right time throughout the season, gelling as a group as long as they can stay healthy. And as you've pointed out before, I'm starting to be a believer that Zach Edey is going to surprise a lot of people this year with how much he plays and how well he plays for this group. So they should be a lot of fun to watch. Next up, we've got the New Orleans Pelicans. Last year, they went 49 and 33. Their over-under this year is set at 46.5 wins. So just a few games shy of last season's total. So, Bruce, are you a Zion believer this year or no?
No, I'm not a believer in the team at all. I've got them going 41 and 41. So that puts them clearly in the under. Mm-hmm. They lost Jonas Valanciunas, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance Jr., and Cody Zeller. They added DeJounte Murray. But with Zion, I mean, the guy's always an injury waiting to happen. If he misses time, they're going to be a poor rebounding team with only Daniel Tice as an experienced big. So 41 wins for this group and, play-in city.
Yep. World B?
I disagree. I think they're going to be, not only do I think they're going to go over this total, here's my prediction for them. I think they're going to host a first-round series. They're going to be one of the top 4 seeds. I think when they're together, there's a lot of talent on this team that doesn't get a lot of headlines, mostly because of where they're located in football country in Louisiana. That's what it is down there. But I think they're the team like Memphis. They don't do the glamour stuff. They don't have these great shooting things like Golden State. They don't fly around the basket or whatever. All they do is they get the second chance points. All they do is get on the fast break. All they do is offensive rebound. Now, to Bruce's point, they're missing a lot in the middle, and we don't know what's going to happen. They could play, talk about being creative, get Zion in the middle at the 5. But, he could do that and then spend a week on the sidelines with an injury. We don't know with him. If he's healthy, this is a deep line. This is a deeper lineup than you think if everybody's healthy, with Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum, Murray, and Zion Williamson. It's just a matter of who plays in the middle. But I think they're going to figure it out. I'm a big believer in Willie Green, and I think they can be a top 4 seed.
All right. I'm going to take the under here. And my main reason is the concerns I have with Brandon Ingram. He has been a guy that stayed out of the press for years, even after his trade from the Lakers. And now he's a little disgruntled in New Orleans with kind of how they've handled his own contract and situation with the Pelicans. So if they were to trade him, maybe I'll change my tune. But with Zion not being healthy all the time, Brandon Ingram now upset, they lose Valanciunas, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum. Let's see how that chemistry works out on the court together. I'm not buying it, so I've got under on this year, but I think they are a playoff team. They'll with all the things they do as X factors, they'll make the playoffs, but not go ahead and achieve successes in terms of the over-unders here. Next up, we've got the Houston Rockets. Last year, they were exactly 500, 41-41. And this year, their over-under is set at 43.5 wins. Bruce?
I've got them winning 44, so that's the over. They have an excellent mix of youth and veterans. Steven Adams bolsters their rebounding and screen setting for guys like Fred VanVleet and rookie Reed Shepherd. Alpi Şengün is a budding all-star, and Ime Udoka is going to blend these pieces well. This is clearly a team on the rise, so I like them to win 44, and that's the over.
All right. Will be?
I have the over as well. This was the most improved team last season they were from the previous season, and I think they're only going to get better. For me, this season completely hinges on one person, Jalen Green. If Jalen Green is the player we saw at the end of last season, in March, his shooting been terrible his whole career. We know that. It's been lousy. In the month of March last year, 27 and almost 28 points a game and 41% from three-point range. I think if he can continue what he was doing in the second half of the season, where after the All-Star break, I think it was like 37% from three. If he can continue that, they're going to be a playoff team, and I think I have them as the over, getting to 44 wins. It all hinges on Jalen Green for me.
Yep. I'm going to hinge on the side of over with the Houston Rockets. I just love the depth this team has. They got a lot of young players that are really close to taking the next step. I think a few of them, if not all of them, will do so this year. They've got to keep Şengün healthy, but when he's healthy, he's an absolute beast out there. Jalen Green turned the corner at the end of last season, and Reed Shepherd, one of the big standouts in Summer League this year, to go along with Fred VanVleet. Really like what this organization is developing internally with their roster, and keep an eye on them because they are so deep. They could go out and trade for a guy like Brandon Ingram or a Jeremy Grant and really bolster their chances for the playoffs. But as it stands now, I still think they're better than 500 heading into this year. Last but certainly not least, we've got the San Antonio Spurs. They were 22-60 last year. Despite adding Chris Paul, their over-under is set at 36.5 wins this year. So, Bruce, do you see this team being a playoff team? It seems like you got to get over 40 wins to make the playoffs out west this year.
Yeah, they're going to fall just short. I got them, believe it or not, with the over. I've got them going 37-45. I mean, Wemby's a total freak, and he is clearly a future MVP. Adding Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, and Stephon Castle to last year's 22-win team is a huge upgrade. I think Devin Vassell will benefit from CP3's cleverness and Wemby's presence for some open threes. They're going to challenge for a spot in the play-in tournament, but even if they fall short, this team will have some nights where they look like absolute world beaters. So I'm going to say take the over. I got them going 37-45.
All right. Will be?
I have them going over this year as well. I have this is my most improved team in the league this season. I think they're going to challenge for 40 wins. And keep this in mind. At the All-Star break last season, they were 11-44. After the All-Star break, they were 11-16. Still under 500, but they clearly were showing improvement. And as Bruce mentioned, Wemby is just going to, there's nobody in the league I want to see stay healthy more than Wemby. That's how it was last year. That's how it is this year. He is such a freak. He's a generational talent. I want to see him on the court as much as possible. And their offense absolutely has to improve. They were bottom 5 in offensive efficiency last season. They were bottom 10 in effective field goal percentage. If they can improve that, which if they're going to go over, they have to improve that. They can really be a really fun team to watch this season. They're not going to get to 500, but they're going to go over this total.
All right. I'm going to actually take the under here. As much as I love the Chris Paul acquisition, I think he's going to work wonders with this young group. I just question whether or not they're ready to really compete out west. We just going down the list here tonight and discussing all these teams. I don't see them on the same level as many of these. So I think Wemby's going to have his nights, but to improve this much over the course of just 1 year, I just don't see this young group doing that, especially since they've got to get Stephon Castle, into the mix as well. Should be a lot of fun to watch them develop, but I see them just missing 37 wins next year. Now, as we get to our final thoughts here, I just want to quickly say before we close the show out that this past weekend, the Phoenix Suns lost legend Al McCoy, who passed away at the age of 91. McCoy was the longest tenured team broadcaster in the history of the NBA, serving as the voice of the Suns for 51 years. And having not just worked for the team, but growing up as a huge Suns fan, this one definitely hurts. My condolences go out to McCoy's family. And if I could say anything to Al, it would simply be thank you. Thank you for all the memories, legendary calls, and of course, for all your stapled phrases such as Zingo the Strings, Heartbreak Hotel, and yes, Shazam, as those will certainly remain with me forever. Bruce, you have anything to add on that?
Well, not so much about, Mr. McCoy, who won the media award from the Hall of Fame a number of years ago, the Kurt Gowdy Media Award. So he's a certified legend. My point is just that the play-by-play guys, especially the longtime play-by-play guys for our favorite teams, really, we get much closer to them than we do to the players, because the players come and go. But as you said, Al McCoy was doing those games before you started. Celtics fans had Johnny Most for the old timers like me, or Mike Gorman, who's been there for, 40 years. Knicks fans have Marv Albert, Lakers fans had Chick Hearn. So these guys, and now women are starting to do that job too, including our good pal Monica McNett with the Knicks. Yep. We bond with them, I think, over a much longer period of time than the players. So I can totally understand how you feel about the passing of Al McCoy. He's, he'll long be remembered. And most of the time I heard him was on NBA entertainment clips, particularly when the Suns were really good. So I did hear a lot of those catchphrases. Wasn't a Suns person, but I can definitely understand how much he meant to fans in Suns world.
Yep. So our thoughts go out to the McCoys, along with the Suns fans during this difficult time, as Suns radio broadcasts will just not quite be the same ever again. But with that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.